the bold, the brave, the beautiful. They turned their problems into prospects, crying into creation, pain into purposes, trials into triumph. Your show every Saturday, 7 p.m. Central African Time. Tune in and be blessed. Brought to you by Shunem K.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited today that we are joined by Kevin Davidson, all the way from the United Kingdom. And we are blessed to have someone coming from the land of the Queen today to speak to us and share his story. We are here in the show of the bold, the brave, and the beautiful. You may be wondering how he fits into this story. How can a man be beautiful? His heart is very beautiful. He is a beautiful soul. He is bold and he is brave. As you are going to listen to this story, sit back, relax as we share this story. I just want to welcome you, Kevin, to the show.
Thank you, Skhumbuzo. It's an honor to be on your show, and thank you for your kind words. I acknowledge you as a beautiful person with very kind words, good nature, and a wonderful story too, actually. So it's been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much. I met Kevin from the Clan of Brothers, which is a very powerful group which consists of men that are having the challenge to have children, and we have solidarity, we have shared stories together, and I reached out to him and he was willing to come to this show, and I'm very thankful. Thank you for that beautiful heart that has allowed you to really share your story so that it can help some men there that thinks that maybe I'm alone, maybe I'm helpless, maybe I'm hopeless, maybe I'm not man enough, and I am just a useless individual. Before maybe we share your story, some people may need to know who Kevin is. I know that's a very wide question, open-ended question, but help us know who Kevin is.
Absolutely. I'm 52. I am a coach. I coach men to be impactful, to feel more complete, so they can have better health, better relationships, and prosperity. I believe in the values of courage, vulnerability, and connection. And obviously, being a man, a childless man myself, I engage in a lot of men who come to me with what you said, actually feeling alone and not feeling manly. So it's from my own experience that it actually brought me into coaching. And coaching, I believe, gave me a voice. And from that, I can help other people. And I take great pleasure because it's one of the wonderful things to help and transform people in this world. So that's me, really. I was married. I now live with my long-term partner in Brighton, just on the south coast of the UK. We have a 1973 camper van, which we have many adventures in. We have a little mini dachshund dog called Rudy, and I'm very happy with my life. Very happy.
Thank you. That's That's very, very beautiful. It's good to know you in this way, and I'm very thankful that you have come to a place where you are able to say, now, you see, loneliness. Let me take it to another level and help men who are in this place. Transforming the loneliness that you felt into coaching. How did that come about?
Well, I had to first suffer the loneliness, and that came from not being able to be a father in my previous marriage. And we tried for many years. We were unsuccessful in 2 IVF treatments, which was very, very painful. I felt very helpless and angry at the time. And the impact it had after that on me, from a mental point of view, a moral point of view, a spiritual point of view, was devastating. And I think maybe I'm not the only man that does this, but I just retreated. I hid. And I isolated myself, and that's where the loneliness came from. And it was only by somebody reaching out to me and helping me and coaching me was I able to move forward. And I never forgot that. And from that, I want to actually help other people who have experienced or are experiencing what I experienced before.
Oh, that's quite impactful. That's very wonderful indeed to come from a place where you are saying, I am lonely, but then reach out to other men and become a coach. I think that makes you, that places you, that makes you into a better coach, because you know the rock bottom. You have been there and you have tasted how it is like. And so when someone says, I'm there, you exude empathetic presence. You move with them. You are able to lift them from that place, and that you do in a very important way, because it is embedded in the story of your life. And so you shared about failed IVFs, and how did that make you feel as a man when you were trying out to have children?
As a man, when I was going through IVF, I was giving my wife at the time the injections. She was having the examinations. She was having all the attention. She was going through the pain of this, the anxiety, the anticipation. And I felt like an imposter, a phony, thinking all I need to do is to turn up on the day with a test tube. So I really felt helpless, really. And I was trying to be strong for her. I wanted to be a steady rock for her in this difficult situation. But I was very anxious. I felt alone, and I felt scared, actually, thinking, what if this doesn't work? Where does this leave me? What does this mean to me? All these years of not being able to conceive People saying to me sometimes to my face, sometimes behind my back, what's going on. And not being unkind, but I felt that I just felt less of a man because of it. So the IVF was really, really, looking back, the first one particularly, because I didn't know what to expect, was it was tough, and the attention was on my wife. People were saying, "How are you?" And to me, I used to say, "Yeah, I'm fine," even though I wasn't. But I felt very much an imposter. It's the best way to put it.
Oh, yeah. That's quite a challenging thing, because when someone who is supposed to be brave facing the storm, because men are supposed to be those giants that are able to be standing when the enemy comes, they are supposed to be pouncing them down, but then you crumble because of this idealized manhood perspective that has been brought, that for you to be a man, you ought to have a child, and because you don't have one, so it means that you ain't a child. And hearing the sentiments, and maybe that further cemented the feelings of loneliness, the feelings of being less of a man. And I am very much touched by your story. It must have been very, very hard. Maybe if you can help us understand what cultural issues from this part of the world I'm coming from. There's so many of them that are a challenge to people who are in our situation. So what cultural issues did you have to contend with as you were navigating the childlessness pathway, this stigma-infested pathway?
Well, my parents were very supportive. They never asked me about it. They kind of left me to it, which was nice, because I felt that I was letting them down. My father is an only child, but on his side, there have been 4 generations of men. He is one boy. His father was one of 4. My great-grandfather is one of 6. And I am one of 2. So every generation in my dad's side are men. Okay. So there was that real pressure I felt of that legacy of men on my dad's side. And my mum's side, she's from a large family. She was one of 10, and she's got 4 sisters that had children, and I have 15 cousins. So a lot of them were having children, and there was that pressure as well. We have an Indian culture in our family, and children is seen as prosperity, it's seen as success, it's seen as wealth, it's seen as well-being. Family children, it's like you're passing on your goodness, and it's seen that way. Even though people didn't say that to me, I felt it. And looking back now, there was anger, because as men, we don't see this coming. If it was a case of bad living, smoking, drinking, not exercising, then I could do something about it. But there was just no explanation as to why it affected me when my father, my mother, my family, nobody had this problem. And going through school, going through university, going through adolescence with relationships, it never occurs to you that you have this. You just think it's just going to happen. And this is the most difficult thing I've found to deal with.
Yeah.
Why me?
That must have been very hard, being the first one, I mean, in the family to be in that kind of a situation. You may have felt insignificant, and the question why doesn't have answers. And I'm thinking to myself, there are men that come to you who have this why question. And you are at a place, you will pardon me if my assumption is wrong, because there is tolerance to childlessness, maybe not acceptance, so to speak. We can't say, I've accepted this fully, because there are lost reminders all around, and there are issues that really bring this thing back. But I'm seeing you using your pain as an implement that is very important in your coaching and coaching men, and instilling values of confidence in them. How has this failure to have children become a very powerful tool in helping those that have maybe for the first time felt like I'm the one who has been the identified patient of the family, the one that is the scapegoat of the family, the one that is really causing issues in the family. A man comes and things have failed and they're crumbling in whatever situation.
Well, firstly, one of the things that I realized when I was able to move forward from this is that I don't know if anyone else in my family has the same problem, because people don't necessarily say that they're trying for kids. They might say, no, we don't want kids. So that's number one, is that it's a very private thing. For me, it was about two things. It was about shame and expectation. Okay. And what I realized is that I felt ashamed, and I was trying to hide that shame and not allowing myself to acknowledge that shame and share it with people in my family, that love me. I just hid it. I kept it to myself because I was too afraid of being a failure. The other thing, as I said, is that I asked myself, why am I expected to have kids? I defined my masculinity based upon this. And I question it, saying that this is something that this is not my belief. This is a belief of society. This is a belief of culture. This is a belief amongst men, but it doesn't belong to me. And then I realized that to move forward, I have to define who I am as a man, not being a father. And that was the biggest thing to do. And the hardest thing I had to go through, and this was the tough one, is that I had to acknowledge that I was not going to be a father. And I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go there because of the pain. But I had to say, I'm not going to be a father. And that is when I started to heal from that point.
Yep.
Obviously, when you come to that point, a lot of emotion comes out. Sadness, anger, fear, anxiety, pain. mixed emotions, but it's like a release. It's a release to understand that that is how I was feeling at the time, and I had to let that go.
What that must have been very difficult. That must have been very hard. And I'm just imagining what you had to go through as you were defining yourself. It's a process of maybe reauthoring what manhood is like. You're saying, okay, society says manhood, fatherhood is equal to manhood, but you are saying, no, I have to defy this. I have to say, no, this is not it. I call that process righteous rebellion, because we have to rebel against the norms that are there. And it is all right to do that. I congratulate you for stepping out and doing that kind of a thing. I think this is where you became bold and brave to be able to grab the bull by its horns. But it must have been a journey. Thank you for watching. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you. You care to share about the journey that transformed you from being this kind of a man that was wallowing in pain, pity, and all those emotions, to being the man that may be having these emotions, but now looking at them positively?
Well, the impact that not having from the failed IVFs is that it impacted my marriage, which the pain was too much. It ended in the end. I started not looking after myself, so my health, fitness suffered, and I didn't care. So I'd lost 2 jobs in the process, because I'd stopped really caring about things so much. And I realized I was trying to do it alone. That was the thing, is that I read a lot of self-help books. I went to therapy, went to different classes, different solutions. And it was only really when I met a coach who wasn't necessarily coaching in childlessness. It was really a life coach. And that was really where the change came about, because it's something that I say now, is that you can't go back. You can't change it. But in front of you, there is a path. And it's having the courage to start to take that path and cut the path that you want, not what people expect you to cut. Because your path was this golden path to fatherhood, to the right or the left, doesn't matter. You can't take that path now. So what do? You stay where you are, or you have to determine, what do I want in life, and then start to create a new path for yourself. And you need somebody for that, because to do it on your own is so difficult. That's what took me so long to move forward. But as I said, the key thing for that, and the key thing I had to do, is to acknowledge the fact that that path of fatherhood was not what I was going to take. There's no point in looking at it, longing for it. It was not going to happen for me. And then from that, what I coach people the key thing then is about taking ownership. I took ownership of my life. I took ownership of my emotions, my thoughts, my beliefs. And from that, I then said, I am responsible for my life. I'm accountable for my life. And with that, this is how I defined what man I was. And also the fact that as a man, I was enough. And I could talk to people, which I do now, about the fact I'm not a father, with vulnerability, not with shame. It's a key thing there. Because I used to be apologetic to people to say that I wasn't a father. I used to literally apologize to people. Now I say to people, I'm not a father. And if they ask me, I'll tell them, you know, how that feels. But I choose whether or not I need to say that. And I can just say, I'm not a father. And that is enough. And people recognize that now and say, okay, so you're not a father. And I've had conversations with people now who have told me that they've got 4 kids, but the difficulty they had in getting those kids, people don't realize. The difference is that they have 4 kids, where I don't. But they said if people realized that it was not easy, and you being vulnerable allowed me to tell you just how much pain I went through, you know. So it's a way of creating a space for people to communicate, but not with shame.
And this is one of the values that you instill in men. Besides courage, there's the aspect of vulnerability, and I like how you approach this aspect of not being ashamed, but also when talking about it, being vulnerable. And it's like unmanlike to be vulnerable, and it must have taken some social or redefinition of this aspect, because men cower away, men hide in their cocoons, men will not talk about these things. But here you are coaching men, and you are expecting them to rise to the occasion and face the world. But one of the values that you give them is vulnerability, and I really like this. Maybe tell us a bit about as a men leadership coach, and tell us about mindful masculinity. What you do there. Maybe somebody who's watching may be interested in that and try to understand exactly how you are processing this, and what you do there, and how they may reach out to you.
Sure. With mindful masculinity, it is based upon, as I said, the values of courage, vulnerability, and connection. Because vulnerability is real courage.
Okay.
If you think about it, it's easier to say to somebody, I don't feel pain, than to say to somebody, yes, I feel pain. Yeah.
Wow.
Because we think that we're going to be judged, we're going to be dominated, and we are going to be laughed at. But I always say this, is that there's a difference when you approach somebody with vulnerability. If I said to you, okay, Skhumbuzo, I need you to hear my story. This is very important to me, and I'm speaking to you about this because I think, because you're important and I want you to hear this. That's vulnerability. It's powerful. I'm not apologizing to you. I have your attention, but I'm not attacking you. And the other person doesn't have to feel defensive because somebody's coming to them with real sharing. They're not trying to hold anything back. They're not trying to look good, because we try to look good because we want to please somebody, but we don't, vulnerability is about saying to somebody, this is me. And guess what? When somebody reveals them, you reveal yourself to them because you have a common space now to speak in safety with vulnerability. So with Mindful Masculinity, it's about tackling key and discussing key topics that impact men. This is isolation. This is emotions, imposter syndrome. And one of the biggest things that impact men today, machoism. Machoism, where it's devoid of emotions, it's based on dominating people and devaluing female values. And it's where men believe they have to act and be a certain way to be a real man. And that has the biggest impact on why men feel unhappy in life, because of this expectation, unrealistic expectation of trying to live up to something that doesn't fit in your life. I'll give you a good example. The belief is that as a man, you stand and fight. Yeah. But there could be a situation where that is not appropriate to where you are now. It doesn't fit. It might be better to flee. It might be better to stand still. It might be better to try and appease somebody. But that is where you define what is best for you. But when you take machoism, they say, no, you either fight or you're a coward. And this is what impacts men. And it causes confusion, and they're not able to communicate with other men. They're not able to communicate with their partners, their families. And men become isolated. I always ask this question. If I gave you 2 tickets to the Super Bowl to go tomorrow, who would you take apart from somebody in your family? And a lot of guys think, that's a good question, because for some reason, when we get 35, we tend to not have that fraternity of close friends. We become isolated. And men in Mindful Masculinity, it's about safety. Once we feel safe, we are very open with each other. We don't tend to hold back. We'll tell somebody the whole truth straight up, but it has to be safe first. And this is where what I actually coach is about vulnerability. It's the key. It's courage. Because when somebody in a group suddenly says something vulnerable, you think, wow, I was going to say that, but that guy has got real courage for standing up, and you feel connected to him. You think he's really, really telling me, showing me who he is.
Wow.
So as far as connection on social media, Mindful Masculinity, you can search that. Mindful-masculinity.com is my website. There's information on there, and there's a community which I'm launching in the next month for men to come together and discuss what I've just said, these topics.
Wow, wow. You just blew my mind. I've been listening and I'm taken aback and I'm thinking and seeing myself sitting in front of Kevin and he's coaching me to be vulnerable. Oh man, you ought to be there to sit in front of him, and being vulnerable is being bold. Being vulnerable is being brave. Being vulnerable is having a beautiful heart that says, I think I can face it. When you share your story, you are saying, I am very important. And what is in my life will impact you in a way that's going to change you. And thank you for that, Kevin. There are childless men out there that are listening to us. I am childless. Kevin is childless. Maybe you may be thinking that you are a useless individual, but I want to submit to us, this is doable. You ought to step out there. Just listen to such men as Kevin. They are an example that even if you have lost your marriage because of childlessness, you are lonely and you are discouraged. As you then refocus your life, you can get to a place where you are able to look at your pain as healing, your pain as your tool for helping others who are in difficult situations, because all the bold, the brave, and the beautiful, they turned their problems into prospects. They turned all their trials into triumphs. Yes, they managed to turn all their pain into purpose. And here is Kevin. He has really turned his pain of being lonely, dejected, ejected even from marriage, into a ministry. Allow me to call it a ministry, Kevin, that is called Mindful Masculinity. And it is helping tons of men who come discouraged and they walk out being helped. And that is very mind-blowing. Thank you for that kind of ministry that really provides care to men that are in hopeless situations. So what words would you say to somebody that is going through a difficult time because they don't have a child?
I would say that you need the key is that about ownership is that you take ownership of your life. By that, you become responsible and accountable. Therefore, then there has to be some acceptance as to what is going on in your life. Then it's about reaching out. It's about sharing with somebody, being vulnerable, because when you share with somebody, they're able to understand your situation, because everybody has a story and everybody's story is important. And if a story is shared, meaning it's shared authentically and vulnerably, people listen to that story. And guess what? You hear other people's stories as well. And then you realize that you're not alone. Another thing is that it's understanding that you are still a man. I turn up to places. If I go to my cousin's christenings, if I go to my cousin's birthdays, I come there as me. I'm not apologizing for not being a father. I am enough. And people engage me as me, and I engage them as who they are. And when people ask me, I tell them I'm not a father. And I don't feel bad about it. It's just, I now say it is not a failure. It is just an occurrence in my life. And that is the difference for what my thinking was before. I always thought it was a failure. So, and from that position of vulnerability, from there, you have a more powerful position to engage people. And it means that you define you. That's the key thing. It's about you take back your power, because otherwise you're giving your power to what people expect you to be. Your power is your power, and it's powerful. And also, it's there to be shared with others. You can touch others because everyone's important.
Wow, wow, that's powerful. Own your story and be yourself. These are words that are very important. If we understand, I think this is the best launching pad for anyone who wants to lead in the direction of then looking at their pain as a springboard for whatever direction they may want to lead. And so thank you very much, Kevin, for taking your time to share from the book of experience issues that have to do with men. I'm being blown away by the fact that vulnerability is more powerful than cowering away and hiding in your cocoon. I think it is mind-blowing to understand that your story is very important and your story is very valuable. Thank you for being bold, brave, and beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation, Skhumbuzo. It's a subject that's very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about. And I think that it is what the true masculine power that we possess is vulnerability. What we tend to do is that we tend to cover our own fears and emotions with volume, anger to push people away. Even with your family and if you have a family and your partner, because you don't want to show them that this is what is hurting me. Vulnerability opens that up to your partner to say that, listen, I'm fearful of this. I want you to know that. That's all it needs to be. So they can understand that, hey, you're a human being. But as men, because of what we did in the past, we always hid that because we think that we have to be firm. But inside, we are afraid until somebody finds that out.
Yeah, that's really important, and I am very grateful that you have stepped out to really share this, and I'm still musing on that, and it will be a watchword. Maybe I've been doing that, and maybe somebody has been doing that, and I'm thinking to myself, it's time to redirect and step out there and be vulnerable and open up. When you open up, you are really bold, brave, and beautiful. Thank you very much, viewers, for taking this time to listen to a very beautiful story Kevin Davidson has shared with us with passion and from the heart, with a heart that's filled with love, to say, you are enough, you are important, you are valuable. May you be tremendously blessed. Until we meet next time, it's our time to say goodbye.
Thank you and goodbye.
Brought to you by Shunem K.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button.